Well, as you were saying there essentially a movement was created on the 1st of December when we saw the most violent and most worrying protests here in central Paris by the Yellow Vest movement. It's people who say that they're apolitical, that they're not aligned to any movement, and that they're not necessarily supporters of President Emmanuel Macron, although many senior politicians in his party have encouraged people to turn out to demonstrate today. They've chosen red scarves as a symbol, and we saw a few thousand people with them leaving from Place de la Nation a short time ago, and they're on their way here to the Place de la Bastille, and they are, as I said, people from all across the political spectrum, but who say that they were horrified by the scenes of violence and rioting that we saw in the streets of Paris on many repeated Saturdays, of course, in November and December, and that they reject the Yellow Vests movement. Many of them say they don't necessarily reject its aims. They think that some change probably is necessary in France, but they reject its means, and especially the level of violence that we've seen on the streets here in Paris in some recent weeks.
Elena, these Yellow Vest protests have been going on for about 11 weeks now. Is there a wide backlash against the Yellow Vests?
I think it's fair to say that there is. When the Yellow Vests first began in November, we saw polls saying as many as 2/3 of French voters supported them. That's fallen now to less than half, with a solid 40% of people telling pollsters that they don't support the movement at all. So certainly the extent of violence that we've seen has put off some people. Also, there's the fact that the government has capitulated, of course, on some of the key aims of the Yellow Vests, like reversing that fuel tax and increasing the minimum wage. And there's the fact that President Emmanuel Macron is making a big effort to reach out to ordinary voters with the big national debate that was launched last week, the aim of which is to meet ordinary people, especially in town halls in smaller towns across the country, people who feel that Paris is a long way away and that they are being governed in some ways at a distance. He's trying to go out, essentially, he's on a big election campaign, although he's not calling it that, ahead of the European elections at the end of May, holding these big national debates, attempting to get people to feel that they are being heard and that the government will then listen to them and legislate based on the ideas that people suggest in these debates that are going on across the country. So there's a percentage of the population that are willing to give the government some time to see how they react, what suggestions come out of this debate, and also, of course, a number of people who were simply shocked by the violence and the rioting that was seen in Paris and who feel that they reject that. So while the Yellow Vest movement still have a solid base of support, there has certainly been a significant backlash.
Elena, is there any concern about the two sides meeting with this counter-protest happening tonight?
There is some concern about counter-protests from Yellow Vests today. We've seen some police presence on the streets, nowhere near as much as ahead of the major in November and December, but certainly there is a worry. We saw a Yellow Vest demonstration as every Saturday for weeks yesterday in Paris, a fairly small one, not a big turnout, about 4,000 people here in Paris. They had attempted to set up a picket in a big square in the Place de la République last night, but they were moved on fairly quickly by police. So they are out on the streets today, the police, in case the Yellow Vests organise a counter demonstration against these red scarves, but we haven't yet seen any sign of that.